Hi, I'm Ashley Hales, and I am so excited today. We have Kris. Hi, Kris. Kris Camealy is the author of the recent release. Well, it's coming soon, just in time for Advent. Come, Lord Jesus. Can we see a copy?
Yes.
Yes. Show us a pretty cover. Come, Lord Jesus. And we are super excited just to have her here to tell us a little bit about the book. So, Kris, what is the need for another Advent devotional?
I don't know if there is a need for it. There was a need for me to write it. So personally, there was a need. I know, I feel like anytime there's a book like this, there's so many books on the market already. But this particular book, Come Lord Jesus, The Weight of Waiting, came out of my own waiting season. I actually was preoccupied working on a different project and needed to lay that aside for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And in the waiting with that process, this project came up. And this is actually something I had been dreaming about for a couple of years, but I had no time and I wasn't in that headspace to work on it.
Right.
But for whatever reason, right before July this summer, as I was praying through my own waiting season and kind of wrestling with what that looked like for me, I just really felt like God said now for this book. And I was like, but I'm working on this project. And he goes, no, you're really not working on this project. You're waiting on this project. And it was like, yeah. And so I really couldn't come up with a good excuse not to do it.
Right.
It was summertime and I had a little more free time. And so I just sat down and started working on it. I worked on it every morning at 4 a.m. Before my kids got up. Yeah. And I don't know, there's something special about doing something like that where you intentionally carve out time and I really just kind of like poured everything I had into this and then just left it all there and that was it.
Okay, so tell us, as a busy mom, so if you don't know, Kris not only writes on the internet, she curates Grace Table. She has a whole devotional online. She's like all over the place, right? Plus she homeschools her 4 kids. So how did you carve out space to leave it open to wait? Because I think that's a lot of what your devotional brings up, right? Is that waiting is a weighty matter. So how did you carve out that space to wait? And what did that look like? Was it scary? That waiting season that you're describing?
Yeah, it was not easy. I'm not a patient person by nature, so I don't wait well for anything.
Right.
So waiting through that season, I think because it was summertime in particular when I was working on this, it was like Christmas in July.
Right.
Because I was working on the Advent book in July. I did a lot of sitting outside. My kids we're new in our neighborhood, and so we spent a lot of time outside riding bikes, and then they were playing. And so I literally almost every single day for the end of June, all of July, and the beginning of August, I would drag a lawn chair out of the garage and put it in my driveway, and I would just sit there for hours while my kids were playing around the neighborhood and outside, just so I could kind of be a presence out there. But also because I was working, I was reading, or I was praying, or I was journaling. And so my waiting process, I got a really nice tan. It just was, right. It was a bonus. I just spent so much time really just sitting and just kind of letting things seep. Which is
so. What did God teach you through the process of writing this? Where have you come out on the other side of the waiting season and the writing season?
I don't know. You feel like sometimes if you write a book on something, you should
you should have it down.
Right? Yeah. But no, I am learning continually what it is to wait and to be okay with waiting and to carry the weight of that in the sense of not that it's a burden, but that it's opportunity, that when we're waiting for something, God is still so active. And so I feel like I'm still just kind of like identifying what does that look like for me to be in a space where I know God is active, even if I don't see it, and to carry that as a gift instead of feeling like it's a burden, even though it's called the weight of waiting. I don't think that necessarily has to be a negative thing.
I like that it's that the waiting is a gift. And maybe it's just because our eyes are not on ourselves, or that we are responsible. It's putting God in his rightful spot of he's the one who does the work and not us.
Right.
And that's a gift, even if it feels like loss of control and we don't know what's going on. And this is a devotional that we can use. How many days is it? Just give us little 2 second little.
It's 25 days. So you could start it the first day of Advent, which is November 27th this year, and read one a day. Or you could start it December 1st and read one a day through Christmas. But it's 25 short readings, and they really are short. And then they each have a little prayer at the end and one question. Great. So it's not burdensome to do the devotion.
Right. You can actually have a little bit of time to reflect and think, but not like, oh gosh, I have to delve into the deepest depths of my soul.
Right.
Little children. Great. So this super convenient format, and yet it's not fluffy. And this is one thing I said about Kris's devotional. I said, I'm not a fluffy devotional person. And yet her devotional is both doable and it's quick, and yet it's deep. But it's not going to plunge you into the depths of despair when you're supposed to be doing the laundry as well. So it's really gives you a bit to ponder, to process, and to think in really manageable chunks. So I'm excited to reread it over Advent. But so there's this quote here, and I want to just talk about it briefly. So it says, you write, a pray without ceasing with an attitude of gratitude lifestyle takes intentional effort and cultivation. Most of us do not inhabit this space by default and without work. So that there is a work of waiting. I like that you bring that up, because I think we either get really antsy about those waiting periods in our lives, or we get, or we just like try to push it away, and then we decide to do something else entirely or be productive. We shove it in, or we forget about it. So what for you, or what would you say is the work of waiting? What does that look like for you personally?
I think for me, the work of waiting looks like learning to abide, learning to just be present with God in the midst of everything happening, because, waiting feels and sounds like a passive activity, but I don't believe that it really is. And I don't think that God is passive in our waiting. And I don't even think that we're necessarily called to be passive in our waiting. I wasn't idle while working on the other project, and not idle while working on this one. Even when I was sitting in the driveway, kind of supposedly doing nothing, my kids would look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working. They didn't think I was working.
Right.
But I think that the work of waiting is learning to watch for God, to be present with God, to be listening. I think there's a lot of listening that needs to go on when we're waiting, because I think it's intentional. When God calls us to a waiting season, it's because there are things at play that we don't even know about. And so the only way to be receptive to that is to be present in it, which requires effort. It takes effort to be present. It's so easy to check out. So that is where the work is let me be present in this waiting, and not mentally check out of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of discipline and a lot of work.
Yeah.
To be present in your own life and not, not scroll through Facebook. Yeah. So what disciplines, I know, so Kris is in charge of Grace Table. She curates a wonderful group of writers there, talking about hospitality in the gospel and what it looks like in our homes and daily lives. So I know cooking has been kind of one of those places, and the kitchen has been a place where you have really processed probably a lot of these ideas. Do you have a story or a way in which your kitchen or cooking or the act of sharing food, even for your own family, is something that's helped make sense of waiting for you?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this the other day. I also teach a cooking class at our homeschool co-op, and I was watching a pot. We were trying to get it to boil. We were making rice pudding. And I was watching this pot, and of course it wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And I thought of the, the expression, a watch pot never boils. And I was thinking about how so much time in the kitchen, you have active times where you're chopping or stirring or whatever, but you do have a lot of waiting time. You're waiting for things to proof, or you're waiting for them to cook, or you're waiting for this to boil, or whatever it is. And all of those times, I feel like for me, they're very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
I will often, when I'm waiting for something, I'm like, I will get lost somewhere else. My mind wanders. I start praying. I start thinking about things. And so, having, feeding people is like what brings me back in, because I will kind of disappear in the kitchen into my own zone.
Yeah.
And so when things are ready, it's like it brings me back into, okay, this is now, the moment now.
Yeah.
So it's a very fluid, I feel like it's a fluid space.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There's sense whenever I've cooked for large groups of people where like just the whole preparatory thing, it's like, this is a blessing and you get to pray over your food and I think I lose that in the dailiness of cooking for my family. But like special occasions, particularly, you realize how much it's not only a blessing, but it's a sacrament. It's a grace, to be able to feed people. So I think we learn so many lessons from very small, ordinary things if we're paying attention. So
yeah, and that's the key.
Yeah, yes, and not just zone out. So,
Right.
Kris, tell us what's your hope for this, for your Lord.
Hope is my word for the year. Oh, it's a hard word. I think my hope for this book is that people would find it useful, because I feel like there are so many books out there for the Advent season, any holiday seasons. Like there's always a lot of books. But my hope is that the people that pick this up really find something of value there, that there will be something that really speaks to them. But I mean, above all, I want them to find Jesus. I want them to find just a sweeter communion, a deeper connection with God and their faith, especially in Advent. I feel like, it's kind of, you should during Advent, but it doesn't mean it's always easy because there's a lot going on. So I know I've had my own Advent or Lenten seasons where I felt very distant from God, even though it seems like I should feel super close to him. So my prayer and my hope would be that people reading this would feel connected to Jesus.
Oh, that's great. Yes, I'm excited. And I'm so excited to have another thing to recommend to friends and women that I'm walking alongside and say, hey, you can manage to read a page or two a day. This is just something very small that we can implement that can meet us in the weightiness of our real, actual human lives and not just, hey, this is fluffy and nice thoughts about Jesus in a manger, So thank you for being faithful to your own waiting season and sharing it with us. Can you tell us quickly where we can find you and where we can get it?
Yes, it's available.
Show it again. Mine hasn't come yet from Amazon. So
yours is. I have Amazon Prime, which is worth every penny.
Oh, I know.
But it is available on Amazon. You can find me anywhere on social media at Kris Camealy. That's my Twitter name, my Instagram name, Facebook. Perfect. I go all by my own name. So
all right, yay, easy peasy. We'll remember it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kris, for being with us, and we're just super excited to be able to have real, honest words as we wait. So thank you for your faithfulness and your friendship.
Thank you.